Right, guys, please have your pen and paper, right? Pen and paper, because I think subject number 1 and subject number 3 are very correlated, right? So I'm going to cover them in one, which is service lines you can create or strategies that you can focus on in the property space, right? And if I overlook one, just let me know. Okay. Now, service lines you can create is pretty simple. What you see in the franchise, which is block management, commercial management, hotel management. You can also do agency work as well, which I highly recommend you don't. Okay. Because it is not profitable. Okay. It's better to stick to management of commercial properties, because that's a lot more profitable. Yes, it comes with responsibility and liabilities, but at the same time, it can be very profitable. Okay, I've been making profits from even leased out commercial hotels, pretty decent profits for that matter. Sort of in the region of 40%, 40%, 50% return on money invested. Okay. So that's much better. Service lines that you can start otherwise is supplies to property industry, right? Kitchens, bathrooms, Wi-Fi's and broadbands, and all sorts of things that you look at. Supplies can be very profitable. I know quite a few people personally who are making very good profits. One of them is a bathroom supplier, wholesale bathroom supplier. He is making sort of in the region of $500,000 plus a year. Those, it's almost like anything that you supply in the property industry can be very profitable, as long as you know which aspect to cover and how to bring technology into the picture. Okay. This also is connected to M&A space, which is your mergers and acquisitions, which is you can actually acquire from baby boomers. Some of these businesses, when you walk into these private warehouses where they're selling tiles and carpets and all sorts of things, right? All sorts of supplies to the property industry. These are baby boomers. They're very well off. They're looking to sell their businesses. They can't find buyers. There's not enough buyers for the businesses that the property, so the baby boomers have, that you can acquire, bring technology into the picture and sell them. More automation. That's a very good strategy. In fact, like I said, a couple of people I know are working very heavily on this, and they're doing really well. Okay. When you look at taking over hotels and taking over these businesses, supply businesses from baby boomers, they are in essence very similar. Okay, they're in essence very similar. You take over the business, you bring the technology into the picture, you do lots and lots of delegation, and they can be very profitable while you only manage a very small part of it. Normally anywhere between sort of 1 to 3% is your management. The rest gets managed by the managers. Like I said, these suppliers, floor suppliers, furniture suppliers, you name it, majority of these are owned by baby boomers, and they're looking to sell, and they don't have enough buyers in the country. Okay, these are your service lines. Going back to the strategies within the property industry, please write this down. Okay, remember, even though within the franchise we only cover the 3 strategies, doesn't stop you from covering other strategies, because there are profits to be made. Okay, now remember, we come into the picture when there is value to be added. Okay, try and understand where can you add value. Okay, now let's say you walk in and it's a large plot or it's a land plot. We can obviously do planning game. You walk into an office, we can convert it into residential. You walk into an office, it's run down, we can convert it, maybe redo it as a commercial. Maybe change the use of the commercial from one form to the other, depending on the demand and supply. Anything that's run down is definitely value add, but then change of use is another value add. Remember, I was sharing with you that you can walk into a retail shop. Maybe it's a tier 3 tenant in there. You bring a tier 2 or a tier 1 tenant, and all of a sudden you can add increase the value from anywhere between 50 to 100%. Please raise your hand if you remember that. Yeah. So it's not just about a rundown property, a change of use is value add as well. Okay. I had a call with Alan yesterday. He's not here. He was sending me a few hotel deals. And I said to him, I said, you need to be one thing you need to be very well aware of, which he said he knew, but you need to be very well aware of that. Irrespective of the kind of deal that you walk in, if it's, let's say, a hotel deal, that's what he was talking about, you need to understand value in terms of where is the value. Imagine you walk into a hotel, it's a tired landlord. What tends to happen over a period of time with hotels is that when someone starts to get tired, and if let's say there was a leak in one part of the building and it has now affected two rooms, now they don't have the energy or the money to be able to repair those rooms. So they just close them and leave them like that. It's what you call inefficient use of the space. So the number of times you'll walk into hotels and normal. Write this down, please. If you have not written this down, write this down. It's normal to walk into a hotel and have 20% of the space completely wasted purely because the owner is just tired or probably doesn't have the money. Okay? You can go in, you can repair those rooms, and all of a sudden, you're now making 20% more money. Okay? Initially, when you walked in, there was zero profits. Now you walk in, you refurb the 20 rooms, and now you're making 20% profits on what you saw initially as a break-even business. Raise your hand if you see where I'm going. Yeah? It's what you call really efficient use of the space. You know, when you walk into a Tesco's, right? And you look at, shelf, the top shelf and the one above your eyes, and then you look at the one right at your eye level, and then it keeps going down. There's lots of psychology based on that, the use of the space. They will only keep the things that make them the most profit on the eye level. They will always keep the things right at the bottom, which make them the most profits, which are for kids. So it keeps them on the eye level for the kids. Take the same formula. You go and apply that to a hotel. All of a sudden, you have a hotel that's making zero money, and all of a sudden it becomes 30-40% profitable, which really becomes, in essence, money-wise, 50% return on money invested. See where I'm going with this? Okay, that's exactly what I do. So when I walk into a hotel or when I walk into a commercial space, and I'm looking at it thinking, what can I do to bring value? Okay, that's how you got to look at it. Either it is a rundown property, even if you walk into a property and it's not run down, but it is fairly old. Okay, you walk in, you're getting 5-10% discount purely because it's not in the best condition. It's not run down, but it's not the best condition. You walk in, you put a new kitchen, you put a new bathroom, you whitewash it, you put a new carpet, spend, let's say, 30 grand, and you've added value worth 60-80 grand. Raise your hand if you see what's happening here. Okay, for every pound you spend, you can add value worth anywhere between 1 to 3 pounds. Okay, depending on the location. Okay, if you do this in London, you're likely going to add 2 pounds. So for every pound that you spend in Greater London, you can add 2 pounds. Okay, that is 200% return on the money invested in the refurb part. If you take the same thing into Central London, you can add value worth nearly 3 pounds for every pound. So you spend 1 pound, you get 4 back. That's including your 1 pound. Okay, that's on the refurb. Okay, so the property doesn't just have to be a rundown property. It can be just something that's tired. Maybe the landlord was an elderly, he never whitewashed it or never painted for the last 10 years. He's not changed the carpet for the past 10 years. He's not changed the sofa. He's not done anything with the bathroom, not done anything with the kitchen. Maybe there's a couple of broken cupboards. All of a sudden, you can see value. Yeah. This is the same with an office. You walk into an office, it's a rundown office. Even if you do just the refurb from an office to an office, you can add value worth X amount of money. Okay, X percentage of the refurb that you would do. Okay, It's likewise same with hotels, likewise same with any kind of property that you might look at. So it's not just about looking at the 3 strategies that we cover. That is where the most profits are. But don't hesitate looking at different kinds of deals that you might come across that can be very quick and very profitable. You know, if you were to whitewash and change the bathroom and the kitchen and the whitewash the property and change the carpet, it's a maximum anywhere between 1 to 3 months job. Okay, and you know you can walk away with decent money. I've done this many times. Okay, in fact, I came across this property yesterday. The guy has been connected with me for the longest time. He gave me this property to sell about a couple of years ago. I couldn't sell it. I just couldn't sell it. Irrespective of what I did, he came to me in the morning. He's giving 60% discount on the market value. Okay, so I'm now gonna not buy the property, but I'm gonna put overage on top of it and sell it to someone else. I'll probably walk away with anywhere between 15 to 20,000 pounds. Okay, don't hesitate with things like that. They can be very quick money. This is going to be very quick money because it's cash purchase, and it is going to complete within 7 days purely because I have all the legal pack ready. I have pretty much everything ready to show it to an investor and say, look, everything is ready. You can call up your solicitor, deposit the money, and it can be actually completed within 24 hours. Okay, so don't hesitate looking at different strategies. Either it is lease option, there is lease option, which you might ask me, why would someone give their property on a lease option? Okay, here is a big reason: tax advantages. Imagine if you bought your property 20 years ago, okay, and now it has doubled in value. Let's say you bought it for 100 and now it's worth 200. If you go and sell that property, you make 100,000 pound in capital appreciation, which means you have to pay capital gains tax. Now, let's say if you have an option agreement with someone, and now you don't get the 200 grand immediately, but you get it in installments over the next 10 years, all of a sudden your capital gains tax liability can potentially reduce to near to nothing. Raise your hand if you can see where I'm going. Okay, that's your lease options. Okay, so people who will give lease options is because they want to save on taxes. Okay, option agreements, you already know about option agreements. You sign up an option, make sure it's registered on the title. You know, you only pay £1 to 10, 20,000 pounds, depending on the size of the deal and depending on how you negotiate the deal, while you control the deal, which could be worth, you know, $1 million plus in Greater London for that matter. So I've covered, you know, land deals, development deals for you, commercial, different kinds of uses, option agreements, lease options, rundown properties, which is the BRR. What else? Okay, why would someone give you their property for rent to rent? Why would they give their property for rent to rent? One major reason is that you will do all the maintenance. Second reason is you might be able to give them a little more than the market value. Raise your hand. See where I'm going with this? Okay. So because you can make that money through the short-term letting system, you can then afford to pass on those profits, some of those profits, not all of it, some of those small profits to the landlord, which it becomes your negotiation tactic. Okay. Another major reason why would someone give their property is because of the new tenants reform bill. Okay. They don't want to be stuck with a tenant where they're still paying rent and you can't even get rid of them. Okay. Have I covered everything? I'm just trying to think on top of my head. Yeah, this is pretty much everything. I know the detail is in my head, so you have to ask me questions to be able to, for me to be able to bring more detail. I have covered this in many different sessions, different depths of it, but feel free to ask me questions. Ahmed, do you have any questions?
In terms of like the service lines, you mentioned about the agency. I mean, do you mean like even like deal sourcing and things like that, or?
Yeah, I don't recommend. Yeah, I don't. You know, deal sourcing is only worth it when you're in the game full time like me, and you come across something that comes to you. You don't go to it. Something that comes to you, and now you can, put an overage on it and sell it. I've done this a few times. Okay, but it's not worth investing all your time into it.
Oh, okay. I get what you're saying. So, I mean, you could be doing some of the other service lines, but then maybe you get this opportunity that just comes to you. Then you
Just
could,
flip it.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So the way the overage works, Ahmed, is that let's say the property comes to you for 100, you put 20,000 on top. Let's say it's worth 200. It comes to you at 150 or 100, whatever that number might be. You put a little bit overage on it. That means, let's say it comes to you for 100, you sell it for 120. Okay, so you make 20 grand very quickly for yourself. Okay, this happens all the time. The property that has come to me, the reason for that is the guy is sitting in Singapore. Okay, he can't control the rent, he can't control the tenant, he can't control the maintenance issues, he can't control anything, without realizing he's bought the property, about 9 years ago, and now he can't control any aspect of it. He's not making any profits, he's actually losing money. Okay, so he just wants to now sell it and can't be bothered about it anymore. Okay, but you come across different situations. Like I said, divorces, ill health, you come across all sorts of situations, okay, where people will give you a discount. Any more questions?
No.
Okay, Aisha, any questions?
No.
Okay, I'm going to cover one thing very quickly so you can see through. This is very important. Grace, any questions?
No, I have noise in the background, so that's why.
Something to do.
Samir, any questions?
No questions for me. Thanks.
More, any questions?
No, Jack. All good.
All right, okay, I want to cover this very quickly, then we'll complete this session and move on to the next one, which is your M&A space, right? Which is mergers and acquisitions. Please, guys, do not underestimate this market. We've got a huge baby boomer market sitting on these brick and mortar businesses, okay? And many of them actually turn around millions in revenue. These guys are not up to date with technology. Many of them actually supply, in fact, most of these businesses supply to property industry. And you can walk in and negotiate these businesses for near to nothing, because there's just not enough people to buy these businesses, okay? Like, you can walk into a business that's turning over 5-10 million pound a year, is making 500,000, 300, 400,000, 500,000 a year in profits, and the guys cannot sell these businesses because the new generation does not want to run these businesses. You can go in, you can negotiate these businesses for near to nothing. Let's say the business is probably worth £1 million, okay? It's making 500,000, multiples of 2 would make it £1 million in value. You can go in, you can tell the guy, look, I'm going to pay you 10 grand today, and I'll pay you the rest in installments for the next 20 years. All of a sudden, you've bought a business for £10,000, or sometimes even £1. That's making 500,000 in profits. You can go in, bring the technology into it, as in, the systems and the processes into it, hire a manager, delegate everything, like the hotel business that I always talk about. 90% delegated to a manager. You manage only the 2-3% of it, and then you keep paying the value of the business to the landlord over a sustained period of time. But you've just made you've just bought yourself a business that's making that kind of money with net to no money from your end. And they're not very difficult to find or buy, purely because they're online, and these people are 65, 70, 75, 80 years old, and they just cannot run these businesses and cannot even sell them anymore. Raise your hand. You know what I'm talking about? These are brick and mortar businesses. These are tiles. These are floorings. These are carpets, furniture supplies, bricks, all sorts of things that get supplied to the property industry. That's what it is, right? These are the kind of businesses. Do not ignore the space. I keep my eyes on it. For me, it's just like a hotel business. I come across one, I will buy it on an option, and I'll keep paying the landlord, and I can acquire. And I know people personally who've done it in front of me. These are people I know personally, as in I speak with them on regular basis. Okay.
Jack.
Yeah.
No, just very quickly. Obviously, you know my situation. At which point, Jack, would you recommend I approach a business like that?
Look, one of the things that most of you are getting wrong, and I'm saying with this respect, is networking. I'll tell you what I mean by why am I saying that.
Okay.
See, these opportunities come to you. You don't
Yeah.
go to them. They come to you when you are networking heavily.
I see.
You don't have to do networking. Let your team do it for you. You know, for me, the virtual assistant. But without networking, these opportunities won't come to you.
Okay.
Okay. You know, there's only so much time we have in a day, every one of us, to be able to go and, you know, attract these opportunities.
Agreed.
If you are doing the networking the right way, if you just observe the WhatsApp community of PEN, forget about everything else, the email system and the Facebook group and the LinkedIn group and everything else that we have. Forget about all of that. Just observe the WhatsApp community. There's people in and out all the time, right? There's at least 7 to 8 people every day leaving and coming in. Okay?
Yeah.
Sometimes more than that. Now, when you look at 7 or 8 people, you might think that's not a lot of people, but look at the end of the year. I've got 3,000 people going in and out.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
That's 3,000 opportunities a year going in and out. Can you see where I'm going with this, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Of the 3,000, I only need maybe one or two a year. Okay?
Yeah.
As long as you know what you're doing. Okay? And understand the game of value. Where do you bring value? You can walk into a brick and mortar business, hire a manager as long as it's doing, you know, a certain amount of money, you know, same with hotels. As long as it's doing a certain amount of money, it's making you, let's say, 300 grand in profit. It's probably doing maybe, you know, 2 million, 3 million in revenue. It's doing anywhere between, you know, 7% to 20% in profits, depending on what kind of business and a whole lot of other factors. Let's say it's making you 200 grand, you hire a manager, you pay him 50,000 pounds, you've got 150 grand, you bring the technology in, you bring the systems in, you bring everything in, you can take your laptop and be managing anywhere in the world and still paying the landlord the value of the business over 10 years or 5 years or whatever that may be. And all of a sudden, 5-10 years later, you own the business freehold. And it's worth now more than what you paid for. You maybe paid for it $1 million, but now it's worth 2 million purely because you brought the systems and the processes and the manager.
Yeah.
Okay. And remember, these opportunities are literally out there all the time. Like I said, if you go and check the data, baby boomers have all of these businesses. And literally none of the new generation wants to run these businesses. Okay. So someone, what's gonna happen with these businesses is that either they're gonna close, or someone is gonna take over and make them into more like a techie business. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Bringing AI into it and all kinds of things.
Exactly. So where do you come into the picture? Okay. Now, I'm not saying go and spend all your time on that. What I'm saying is when you do your networking, you know, actively, or, you know, create a system in place where it's happening actively, you can attract these opportunities.
Right. Okay.
You know, like I said, one property came to me this morning. You know, it's nearly 55-60% discounted. I'm just going to overage it and sell it to someone else. I'm probably going to walk away with 15-20 grand. Okay.
Yeah.
And then what happens is it has paid for all the virtual assistants many fold over.
Times. Yeah.
Okay. That's how you got to look at it. You know, they do networking for me. I close finance business. So one of the things that I wanted to share with everyone was what are my service lines at the moment, if you see through, right? I've got 4 commercial properties that get managed by me. So these are 4 service lines. Okay. Then I've got the 2 buy-to-lets, which now I'm converting into service accommodations. So that will make it 6. Okay. Then I've got the finance, the property finance, 7. Then I've got the property franchise, 8. Now I've got the property VAs, 9.
9. Yeah.
9. Okay. And then I do these, you know, deals behind the scene, which pay me, and I tend to do 1 or 2 a year like that. 10. And all of this is created on the basis of someone doing networking for me. I don't even do networking anymore. It's very occasional that I do it. Okay. Raise your hand if you see what's happening here. All right. These are all service lines, guys. You need to create your service lines. How are you going to bring value into the picture? That's what the game is. Okay. Ahmed, you have a question?
Yeah, no, I get with the networking and all that, but what about the the human aspect? In terms of networking, isn't physically, face to face kind of thing.
I
mean,
stopped
now I
doing
have.
that.
I mean, like as you know that.
I stopped doing that when COVID was happening, and since then I could
Yeah.
probably count about 4 or 5 networking events that I went to. Okay. Now, that doesn't mean I don't nurture relationships. I'm on the phone all the time. So nurturing those relationships is happening all the time. I'm on the calls all the time. But at the same time, there is a lot less of face-to-face and a lot more of virtual. Okay. Remember this deal that came to me, the guy's sitting in Singapore. I've spoken to this guy like about 10 times. Okay. But it's only after 10 times that the deal has come to me. Does that make sense? Okay.
Yeah, like
any more questions?
as you know, I took on a VA
Yes.
through you, and
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
she's been going crazy with the networking aspect. So
That's
I've been
good.
getting all kinds of, she's been messaging a lot of people. So I've been getting, people messaging back,
That's
and
good. That's good.
so now there was a couple, that out of that messaging, they're also somehow in the property sector that, came back and said, oh, let's, schedule a meetup or a chat. So, which, one, we booked, to have like a virtual meeting because he's based in Bradford. He's doing AI software, but related to property. So I guess, yeah.
Okay.
So I think, so
Okay.
I'm just trying to understand, like the model that you're doing. This is okay through
Right.
the online platforms, what networking, having interactions, and then it's just to keep messaging and keep in touch with these people.
The answer is yes, but please be aware of one thing. Okay. No point speaking with someone if you don't have something to sell. You gotta have something to sell.
Yeah.
That's what service line means, right? So let's say you jump on a call with this guy. This guy is pitching you his idea. He's not buying. He's trying to sell you something.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Understand service. You need to have something that you are selling for you to be able to jump on a call with someone and say, well, I've got this. Do you want to buy? Okay. Your service lines. Another service line that we are in the middle of creating, and this is a conversation already started, which is providing social housing to a nationwide social provider. Okay, they're one of the biggest in the country. We've already started the communication. They are now going to come back and give us a criteria, and we're going to source properties for them. Remember, I'm using Nimbus, and within Nimbus, there is, the block lease that you see, those are your lease for the social housing providers. Okay, all you got to do is go and negotiate, pass it on, and charge a fee. Okay, so that would be another service line that we are working on. But imagine I can jump on a call with someone and look at the number of services that I provide. And majority of these are delegated. I do not manage. Guys, remember this. Of all of these service lines that you look at, I do very, very, very little. All of it is delegated. My finance applications get done by our collaborations, not by me. All I do is generate the business, pass it on. The commercial properties get managed by someone else. The buy-to-lets at the moment are buy-to-lets. Once they get changed into service accommodation, they'll be managed by another company. Finance applications, like I said, by someone else. Virtual assistants, I have a supervisor that's supervising, recruiting, all sorts of things. It's being delegated. Yes, I'm still in the picture, trying to obviously make sure that the expectations are met, but at the same time, it is all getting managed by someone else. Majority of all of this gets managed by someone else. Everything that I do, once I touch it, my aim is to delegate. Otherwise, I would not be able to have 10 service lines. Does that make sense?
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
So at the moment, we are at number, I think, virtual assistant number 8, if I can remember. Okay. So it's all about creating your service lines, delegating, creating systems in place, processes in place, delegating, and then moving on to the next one. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. So any questions, Ahmed?
So like in terms, like for us, like the franchisees, or I mean, at least for me,
Yeah.
the that right now that I can offer would be, block management.
Yes.
And
hotel management.
Developing.
Yes. Within the block as well, when you negotiate and the guy is inclined towards social housing, let me know. I'll bring another provider, and all of a sudden, everyone is making money. Okay. So understand your service lines. Without understanding what you're selling, you're just not going to go too far. Because you'll jump on a call with someone. If you're not selling anything, then it's not a waste of time, but it's still a waste of time for time being, till it gets to a point where you have something to sell. Okay. I hope that answers your question.
Yes.
Okay, good stuff. Aisha, any questions?
Yeah, how does AI figure in our workload here? Because we're all being mentored up here to go out, network, follow leads, and bring add value wherever we go. How does AI play here? Because I know the Nimbus model, and they offer a brilliant service, but how do we use AI? Is Nimbus our AI, or have you got any other recommendations?
So the way we use AI is, I can only tell you what I use. Okay. We only use AI for copywriting purposes or for research purposes. I am not using AI at the moment for anything else. Okay.
Yeah.
Like even when you go to the PN website, the chat below is connected to WhatsApp. It's not an AI robot that's replying to you. When someone messages on that, the message comes to me and I reply as and when I'm free. Okay. So at the moment, we are not using AI extensively. All we use it is for, like I said, copywriting and research purposes. Lots of research, for sure.
Yeah.
Because if I'm looking for supply and demand and what's happening in the industry, or house prices and so on and so forth, there's a whole lot of research we do on AI models. Okay. We also use AI models for, for example, one of my virtual assistants the other day sent me a video, which, imagine I'm speaking, but he had a lady in front of it speaking exactly my words. Okay.
That's the kind of AI I'm talking about, because there's a lot of people out there using the platform for networking. Ahmed was talking about his VA doing the networking, and you talked about the networking.
Yes.
But I was thinking that this is how a lot of people are doing it. They're using fascia imagery, and they're using other people's words. You hear it so many times when you watch it. If you see Insta or anything, you realize these are the same exact words I've just heard someone else saying. So you realize which ones are which. But how can we use it in this franchise mentor group to really?
We've started using some of these platforms, but I somehow don't see how we can utilize any more at this stage. Okay. Now, this doesn't mean what happens tomorrow. Now, tomorrow something might happen, which means we are forced to use something else. Okay. But at this moment, I don't see any major usage, right? The video that I was talking about, they made, and it's my words and, but someone else's voice, a woman, and it's a woman speaking. I looked at the video, I was like, I'm not sure if it feels authentic. So I decided not even to use it. Okay? I decided not to use it. I mean, remember, when you're on social media, the difference between a woman and a man on social media is 10x. So if a man is speaking, you'd have 10 people watching. A woman speaks the same words, there's 100 people watching. So I can use that video, and I can have a very beautiful woman with red lipstick and a red dress speaking the same words. I can probably get 10x engagement. Okay, but I'm still not sure if that's the direction I want to go in.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, the inauthentic aspect to it is definitely
Exactly.
a consideration. But I mean, even with that, there are other applications that you can use that they know it's
There's
you,
loads.
that
Yeah,
they know
yeah.
it's you, and you can tell them it's me, but
Yeah.
maybe not use the 10x formula
Yeah.
to really get more engagement, but use your own aspect and
There are,
evolve.
yes. Yes. So remember, like I said, because I've got the virtual assistants, they always come to me, you know, every now and then, at least once a month, twice a month, with different technologies that they're looking at and how they can be utilized. I look at them, either I use them or I reject them, or I just park them sometimes for the right timing. So that's happening behind the scene anyway.
Yeah.
Excellent. Any more questions, Aisha?
Yeah, in the research that you're doing, have we got access to that? Is that crunched down for us to really use, or?
I share if it is something that can be utilized. It has to have utility. So if it's something that can be utilized, I normally share it in the franchise group.
Okay. That's fair. Yeah.
Mauro, any questions?
No, Jack, nothing for now. Just listening intently.
Damir, Grace, any questions?
No, all clear.
All right. Okay. Now this is the point 1 and point 2 that I've covered. Now recording